cold January morning like today, it can be difficult to imagine those summer months, but they will come, and so will the fresh vegetables, fruit, herbs and flowers. I'm Sean Cameron and welcome to my allotment garden. I'm based here in London, and over the next 12 months I'll be showing you what I'm up to on my garden every week. I've had this allotment for a few years, but it's only been within the last few months that I've got the majority of the plot into shape. Having an allotment takes time and energy, and you should set aside at least 6 months to get it in shape. But even if you don't have an allotment, all the hints and tips over the next 12 months can be easily transferred into your own back garden or windowsill. Remember, the key to having an allotment and gardening in general is to do a little bit and do it often, especially with allotments and community gardens. I've seen so many people take a plot on, work it really heavily in the first week or two, and then take a break and they never come back. That's because they do too much too soon. So just do a little bit and do it often. Set aside at least 3 hours every weekend. And if you do the hard work in the early stages, then you can reap the rewards on those nice summer days. Once I decided on the plan for the allotment, it's only then that I truly started to make progress. Now, I'm not a fan of digging, so this year I'm doing raised beds. I find for me that's the best method. But during the series we'll be meeting some of my allotment friends down here, and they garden in a different way from me. Geoff gardens in the traditional allotment sense of rows of vegetables, and he turns his soil over every winter. My neighbour Kai is another fan of raised beds, and Vivi, who is balancing a demanding job with having an allotment. I'll introduce you to them and their progress throughout the year. Unless you're really lucky, your allotment will probably look like this on the first day that you see it. Now this site can be daunting, but to tackle it is really easy. Just cut the grass down, then turn the soil over, removing the grass roots as you go. The other method, and the easiest method, although it can be expensive to set up, is to use weed suppressant membrane over the entire plot, and then put raised beds on top of that. And the raised beds I got, they cost me about £15 to build. And then in the raised bed you put your compost. I had 4 bags for the price of 3, which was £30. I needed, I think it was about 4 or 5 bags per bed. And then for the path you need bark. But like I said, that does all add up to a bit of money. But if you spend money at the beginning, then you can spend more time doing your gardening and not chasing yourself by just getting the weeds. Work out what you want to grow. Now that might sound like quite an easy thing to work out, but so many people grow so many vegetables that they just don't like. Now, for example, I grow tomatoes. I can't stand tomatoes, but I grow them. I don't grow too many, I just grow about 2 or 3 plants. But when people come to visit my plot and they get all excited because, oh, there's fresh food, I say, right, have some of these tomatoes, because I quite happily give them away. But I've heard of so many people, in fact there's somebody down here who grows 50% of the food that she grows she doesn't even like. She just feels that she has to grow potatoes because that's what you do on allotments. But first of all, just make a list of what vegetables you like and grow them. Make a plan of your garden or your allotment. Try not to get caught into the habit of ordering plants or seeds and they turn up and you start to grow them, and then you start to realize, right, I've got a blueberry bush but I haven't got the space for it. So always try and create the space first before you order. Now I'm a fine one to say that because I know I've got some things coming in the next few weeks which I haven't got space ready for. So I'm starting off with a plan. Now you don't need one as big as this, but I've just done it this size so that you can see it. I can tell you that my plot is 23 feet by 28 feet, and I can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 beds, but in one of the beds I divided it up because that's where I'm going to have my carrots, so I'm going to make that bed a bit deeper. Now I did this plan on a computer program called Grow Veg, and I highly recommend that you go and check it out. So in each of these beds, say for example I've decided I want to grow cabbage in this bed, you put the cursor where you want the first cabbage to be, and then you stretch the cursor to the end of the bed, and then the computer will automatically work out how many cabbages will fit in that space. So for example, summer cabbages, I'll only be able to fit 4 in there, but I know with my carrots I'll have 96 carrots. Try and be prepared, because what I've done is I haven't got this raised bed in yet, and I've already planted my onions. I planted them just before Christmas, and I've put them in this bed. But with this program you can just go in and quickly lift those onions and just transport them and put them onto the bed where you actually intend to grow them. Also, it's very good for when you do crop rotation and your second and your third year, but I'll talk about that later in these video series. Geoff, Vivi and Kai, they'll be growing their own type of vegetables, so hopefully with them we'll be able to show you a whole range of different flowers, vegetables and fruit during the coming season. Now I'm in the greenhouse, so in here I'll be growing melons, like I said, some tomatoes and cucumbers. Now I'm not really good with cucumbers, so if you can give me any advice on them, put it in the description box below. There'll be lots of fun, but there will also be frustrations and disasters, and you'll get to see everything as it happens. It may be January, and even though the busy seed sowing months don't really kick off until March and April, there are still things you can do in the garden in January. And don't worry if you haven't got a greenhouse, you can still do these things on the windowsill. One of the traditions in my house is to plant an amaryllis bulb, so that's what I'm doing today. This is a nice majestic flower. It's got a nice long stem, it gets really tall and it has beautiful large flowers on top. This one, I think it's red, I'm not entirely sure, I can't remember. So let's just pot it up. Nothing scientific about this. Just put some John Innes compost in the bottom of a pot. And because it's a large bulb, you don't need that much compost. And just put it around. These are indoor plants, so I will be taking this into the house after I've potted it up, and then I'll bring it out in a few weeks time to show you how it's developed. So just fill the pot up, pressing the soil down, just give it a pat, and then put it onto its tray, and then just give it a really good watering. After you've done the initial watering, you don't have to water for a few days. I'd say about twice a week. There we go. And it's really surprising the rate that these grow. In a few weeks it'll be up to there. Next week I'll be sowing my sweet peas, but what I'll do this week is, just a few days before I sow them, is I'll put them into a little tub of water, and what that does is, because the casing on a sweet pea seed is very hard, so one of the methods to soften the case is to put the seed into some water and just leave it there for 24 hours. So I'll be doing that in the coming days, ready for sowing these next week. The first vegetable of the year that I traditionally sow is leeks. Obviously, being a good Welshman, we must have leeks in the garden. And leeks are one of those vegetables that stay in the ground for a long time. So I'll sow these now, and then we'll harvest them around about December through to February next year. So they do need a lot of time in the soil. So first of all, let's just fill the pot up with some compost. I'm using multi-purpose compost, slightly same as you would with doing any seed. We just use the bottom of that pot. Now, leeks are very easy to grow. You just sow them, then transplant them straight into the ground, and then eat them. If you look at the seed there, they look like small pieces of coal, or if you ever had a model train set, they look like the coal that's on there. So we're not going to sow them all because we don't want them to all come up at the same time. So we'll just sow a pot today, and then we'll sow another pot in February. The main season for putting all your seeds in is March, but there are a few that need to be sown at this time of year. Obviously you can't sow too many at this time of year because the greenhouse is still cold and we're at the start of winter, obviously. So just carefully put them back into the packet. There we go. And then we'll just put a light dusting of soil on top. What I tend to do is I put the soil into a pot and then just gently shake it like that. Not too much. And then just press it down like that. And now, because I don't want to dislodge the seeds by putting the water on top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this carton here, and we'll just put that in there, and then we'll water it from the bottom like so. And don't forget to put the plant label in, which is something that I've forgotten to do, but I'll remember and I'll do it later on. Every gardener likes to experiment, grow something that you've never grown before, and this year I'm growing a lot of stuff that I've never grown before because I'm growing seeds from the James Wong Homegrown Revolution. And the first one is goji berries. Now, if you've ever seen any program of James's, you will know that he just loves this plant. So I thought I'd give them a go. If you go onto the website, thehortchannel.tv, you will see that there's a list of all these seeds that I feature in each of the episodes. So if you want to follow me and sow some of the same things that I'm doing this year, then you can do it on there. This is the first time I've seen the seeds of the goji berry. They look a bit like a tomato, and there's not a lot in there for your money, so you've got to be careful. So I think there's 1, 2, 3, 5 seeds I think in there. No, there's a 6th one. Open the packet up fully. Ah, there they are. They're all hidden at the bottom. So I'm just going to put the rest of them in. You can sow goji berries up until March. These need to be kept at a temperature of 15 to 18 degrees Celsius. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a plastic bag and just pop that in the plastic bag and seal it at the top just to give it a bit more heat. The first flowers that I'm doing for the garden here are Antirrhinums. You can sow these between January and March, and again, it's an easy flower to do. If it's easy, I'm doing it. I don't want anything too complicated. And when you open the seed packet, sometimes it helps if you open it over the pot, because the seeds may not be in their own packet like these aren't. And the seed for these are again really small, so we'll just Pop a few on there. There we go. We are going to transplant these before they go out. Now there's a few more in the seed packet, but I'll keep them for another day. There's nothing very difficult about sowing seed. You just put your compost in, put the seed, and then just cover. There's a few seeds where there's an exception, but on the whole, that's how you do it. And again, pop a label on top so that you don't forget. On the 1st of every month, I'll be filming a tour of my allotment garden. To have a look at the tour for January, pop along to my second channel, which is Sean's Allotment Garden, and a link will appear at the end of this video. Due to the flooding last year, apparently there will be a seed shortage this year regarding potatoes, so get your potato orders in as quickly as possible. This year I'll be growing Maris Piper and Swift. Well, we've come to the end of the first episode. What do you plan to do in your garden this weekend? Put it in the comment section below and I'll read your comments later. Next week I'll be growing some sweet peas, and for all the names of the seeds that I've sown in this episode and throughout the season, I'll be putting them onto the website, thehawchannel.tv. Just go up to Sean's Allotment Garden, which is on the top left hand side, and you'll see a full list of all the seeds that I'm sowing as the season goes on. If you buy the seeds through the website, a tiny percent, it's only a tiny percent mind you, but a tiny percent goes towards supporting these videos. So next week, like I said, I'll be doing some sweet peas. So until then, it's starting to get a bit chilly now, so I'm off back indoors for a cup of tea, and I'll see you next time. Let's go through the blue fence into the vegetable section. This is some manure that I had delivered that's hiding under the plastic. In fact, some of the plastic's fallen off. I'll have to put it on top to protect it.